Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 29th October 2016. The first article is related to the American elections and Trump's recent comments against the authenticity of American elections. Now let me make a statement on this. The democracy stands on the strength of the institutions. And if the legitimacy of these institutions and their processes is questioned, the very roots of the democracy gets eroded. So a maturity of a nation and maturity of a democracy depends on to what extent it tries to protect the legitimacy of its institutions. This very core is being questioned by the Trump now. Now, if the people do not believe in the legitimacy of elections, then obviously it is going to lead or erode the very democracy itself. So, in this context, let us understand what is the way of life in United States and what is a way of life in Europe and how they are different from each other, and why the right-wing parties are growing in Europe. Is this trend is going to repeat in the United States of America too? Now let us bring a scenario over here. What is American identity is all about? Americans feel proud about their values of liberties and freedoms. American identity is intricately connected with these things. On the other hand, in the Europe, identity is divided based on ethnicity, race, religion, etc. So in this context, world wars they have originated in Europe, not in the United States. So the nativism started growing in United States too now. If you take in Europe, the political parties are highly divided based on these ethnical linguistic identities. If you talk about UK's Independence Party, Mary Le Pen in France, all these are right-wing extreme nationalist political parties which are specifically focusing on identity based on ethnicity or linguism. So, such a situation is absent in the United States of America because American constitutional values are strongly binding its people. But at the same time, in the United States of America, there is a racial history where the African Americans are extremely discriminated. So their voting rights and then the institutions of US also discriminatory towards the African Americans. So police, judicial institutions, they are having certain prejudices against these people. So that's where Black Lives Matter movement has come up, in which the police are indiscriminately firing against the African Americans and taking away their lives. So the sensitization of the police and institutions to the rights of the African Americans is necessary. That's what has been said. In this context, President Barack Obama coming to the office in United States has led to a kind of assertiveness among the African Americans. This made the American whites feel that they lost the control over the institutions and also they lost the prestige. So the situation is expected to change, and the Trump is reflective of this particular change. So in this context, the white supremacy tendencies are getting appeared in American democratic system. And most of the people today believe that America lost its greatness and significance under the presidency of Barack Obama. And second is, the whites also started questioning about the functioning of their institutions. As institutions becoming more inclusive, the people enjoyed the right over these institutions, or people enjoyed the privilege in these institutions. They themselves are feeling distanced from that. So, that is leading to a kind of new divisiveness in American society and new nativism in American society. Now, the Ku Klux Klan, a white supremacy group, it is again raising its ugly head. So, in this context, we can say that Donald Trump is already successful in dividing the American society and questioning its democratic ethos and questioning the legitimacy of its process, democratic process and democratic institutions, which is not good for United States of America. That's what we can say. Now coming to extending food security. Now in this context, India, the food security is very critical as the reason is we have the highest amount of malnutrition. So if you come to the National Food Security Act, it mandates 5 kg distribution of rice, wheat or coarse cereals at 3 rupees, 2 rupees and 1 rupee per kg, and also ICDS scheme is also brought under this, where pregnant mothers have to be given hot cooked meal, and the children also need to be provided with the nutrition. So all the food security programs which are there in India are brought under one act. The major criticism about this act is it is leading to carbohydrate security but not the nutritional security. It means that in India, protein energy malnutrition is very high, but it is not compensated for. And next is, as this is not providing for universal PDS, there might be exclusion errors and inclusion errors. It means that many of the beneficiaries may not be needed or may not be eligible to get benefited, but still they may have access to this program. And second is, many of the eligible people may be excluded out of this program. So that is what is the problem over here. So the bogus ration cards, it represents many of the people who are not supposed to be in the program are getting an undue advantage. And the second is leakages. Many of the grain is diverted back into the market from the PDS system. So here, the Aadhaar based verification system was put in place by the government. So, Tamil Nadu and Kerala are the two states which have not come into the fold of NFSA as of now. The reason is the Tamil Nadu has a universal PDS which is effectively working. But the problem over there is many of the unintended beneficiaries are included in the program. More than the population of the state, the number of ration cards are higher. So, that is keeping an undue burden on the center, which is paying for the grains under National Food Security Act. And the second is Kerala, it did not finish completion of its system of seeding the Aadhaar to the ration cards to eliminate these leakages. So the center has come tough on these states, and it has clearly stated that above the intended beneficiaries, above these priority households under NFSA, more the people if they are existing in the state has to pay the full price to the grain. Around 23 rupees per kg has to be paid by the state. It means whatever the subsidy offered by the center will not be applicable beyond the priority households. If you want to make it universal PDS, it is your headache. It is not the headache of the center. That's what the center has made it clear. And similarly, Kerala also, unless it implements the act, it is not going to get the benefit of the center. Finally, because of these situations, both the states have accepted to implement the NFSA from this year, which is a welcome step. Now, let's get into the next article. Center is trying to decimate judiciary. Now, recently, Chief Justice of India Thakur is coming heavily on the center. Now, here we need to know some history. Now, initially, Article 124 has clearly stated that the President of India shall appoint the judges of the Supreme Court in consultation with the Chief Justice of India. The word consultation in this Article 124 has gone varied interpretation. Finally, consultation means an effective consultation with a collegium of judges has come into existence. The Supreme Court in second judge's case has clearly stated the President of India shall consult with collegium of judges, and the collegium, whoever the names it recommends, these are final, and the center is expected to appoint them as the judges of the Supreme Court and High Courts. So in this context, replacing this collegium system, the National Judicial Appointments Commission Act was passed by the Parliament. The collegium system is criticized as non-transparent and it is biased. So that's why NJAC is providing for an executive role in the appointment of judges again. A law minister, a member appointed by the center, will be representing the NJAC. The major problem with the NJAC is so the decisions have to be taken up by at least majority of the members. In this context, the center is getting a virtual veto. Now let me say, at least two members are in the control of the center, the law minister and the member appointed by the center from the civil society. So if any one of them disagrees, then obviously NJAC's the appointment of the judges shall be scrapped. Because of this, it has been criticized that the center has a virtual veto in the appointment of judges through the NJAC. And the Supreme Court bench, headed by the Justice Kehar, has clearly said NJAC is unconstitutional and is compromising the independence of judiciary. So, it has brought back the collegium system, but it wanted to improve the collegium system, and it has asked the center to make wider consultation with the stakeholders and to prepare something called a memorandum of procedure to implement the same. Now, the center is citing lack of this memorandum of procedure for the appointment of the judges as recommended by the collegium. So, the Chief Justice of India clearly said center is taking MOP as an alibi to stall the judicial process. And if the judicial process is stalled, the rule of law will get worst affected in the country, and it is going to worsen the rights of the people, or it is going to make the judicial process to come to a standstill. That is the concern expressed by the Chief Justice of India. And further to this, around 53% of the judicial positions at the High Court level are vacant, and five judges positions are vacant at the Supreme Court level. It is an alarming situation to the country. So already there are huge pendency of cases in the courts. Lack of judges is going to worsen this situation further, which will very negatively impact the rule of law, enforceability of the contracts in the country. The next, let's talk about the India and Prime Minister is going to visit Japan. Now, India and Japan are strategic partners. So, enhanced strategic and global partnership was signed between India and Japan when Prime Minister Shinzo Abe of Japan has visited India. And next is Indian Prime Minister, after extended neighborhood, the first country he has visited is Japan. That is what is the primacy he accorded to Japan. And the second thing is Japan and its cooperation to India is very much necessary to take forward its nuclear energy ambitions. India wants to bring in around 62,000 megawatts of power, nuclear power very soon. So, civil nuclear cooperation pact with Japan is very critical for that because Japan enjoys the technical supremacy with regard to the nuclear reactors are concerned. And most of the American companies are held by, or ownership is held by Japan. For example, Mitsubishi, Toshiba, they hold the stakes in Westinghouse and GE. So that's why ultimately it is the Japan which has to supply the critical spare parts and also the companies that has to establish the nuclear reactors in India. So what the Japan is asking for? Japan is very sensitive for the nuclear issues. The reason being, it is the worst victim of the nuclear attack. And the people's sensitivities are very high onto the nuclear misuse. So they want India to sign NPT. Or if India is not interested to sign NPT, they are demanding for a nullification clause. It means if India tests any of its nuclear weapons, then automatically the civil nuclear cooperation agreement stands still, comes to a standstill, or it gets nullified. So India has reservations for this. After spending so much of money because of its strategic concerns if it goes forward and how it has to handle this situation. Finally, when the Prime Minister Modi visits Japan, a solution is expected to come out. And coming to range of Brahmos to be doubled. Now, Russia was the signatory of Missile Technology Control Regime. Till last year, India was not the signatory. So, in this context, what is MTCR? So, the signatories of Missile Technology Control Regime shall not export any missile technology to non-signatories which is beyond the range of 300 kilometers with a payload of 500 kg. So that's why as India was non-signatory, so the Brahmos missile which was developed by Russia and India, it did not have the capability to carry the warheads beyond to 300 kilometers. Its range was 290. Now as India has entered into MTCR, so this limitation is gone. So that's why they are planning to extend the range of Brahmos missile from 300 kilometers to 600 kilometers now. The next is, let's see the Chief Justice Thakur's T.S. Thakur statement. Do not want institutions to clash. Again, I want to say that institutional functioning is critical for democracy, and the separation of powers, it has to be respected, and institutional clash will ultimately lead to the erosion of legitimacy and respect the people enjoy towards these institutions. So, the Chief Justice was very clear that he is not intended to get the institutions into a clash mode, but he was repeatedly stressing on the need to appoint the judges to ensure the rule of law and protection of the democracy in the country. Now, let's talk about the world news. ISIS is making its inroads in South Asia. Recently, in Pakistan Police Academy and in bakery case in Bangladesh, the ISIS has claimed the responsibility for the attacks. If you see the nature of the attacks, instead of ISIS acting directly, it is getting aligned with the local terror groups to cause the violence in South Asia. So the South Asia is having the largest Muslim population. In spite of this, the ISIS failed to make its inroads in South Asia. That's why it wants to maintain a close alliance with the local groups to cause the terror over here. So this is what the findings of Mr. Amarnath, who is a researcher in Washington DC, has said. So these are the news for today. All the best and thank you very much. And the notes is being exported at are available at civilsprep.com. You can visit the same website. Thank you very much.